Welcome to episode 5 of Miles Ahead, the Canadian Points podcast. We're right now the only Miles and Points podcast in Canada, so we can say that we're both the best and worst podcast in Canada for Miles and Points. Today I'm joined by Josh, Danny, and Kirin. How's everyone doing today?
Excellent.
Good.
Never been better.
Good stuff. Where are you right now, Danny? I saw you were traveling.
Yeah, so I'm currently in New York City, but we are going to be heading off to Disney World next weekend, so very excited to visit the House of the Mouse.
Awesome. Look forward to hearing on that. So today we're going to be getting into another airline loyalty program, Air Canada Aeroplan, which I would argue is the preeminent, most prominent, most relevant airline loyalty program for Canadians. We're going to be getting into and covering the basics. What is Aeroplan? How can Canadians earn Aeroplan through products in Canada? How can Canadians earn Aeroplan with U.S. credit cards? As well as the real meat of it, which is how can you actually redeem Aeroplan points for that next aspirational flight? And then also we'll be touching on Aeroplan status. And we have some questions on Aeroplan from the audience. So I thought I'd, before we get into it, start off with a little trivia. So first question, and as usual, no consulting outside sources. I'd like you all to guess how many Aeroplan partners there are. So everyone can guess a number and then we'll see who's closest.
Is this like Price is Right rules, the closest without going over?
He stole my Bob Barker
Exactly,
joke.
exactly.
I want to sue him.
Yeah, so Danny, why don't you guess first?
Sure, I am going to guess 27 Aeroplan partners.
Okay, Kirin.
34.
Josh guessed 35 and you got it.
No. I don't know why, but for some reason, before anybody mentioned anything, 26 is the number that came to mind.
Ooh.
Why? Yeah, I know that's a gamble.
So it's actually 53.
No
What?
way. 53 partners?
How many are active, though? I mean, you don't get to count things that...
I didn't say they had to be active, so...
So are these like redemption partners, or are we talking about like earning partners? Are these airlines? What do you got for us here, Reed? Because that is a mind-blowing number.
So I guess I didn't specify. So this is just on Aeroplan's website or webpage under partners, and it includes codeshare airline partners and codeshare airlines.
Okay, so this is all 50-some different airlines that are a partner of Air Canada and Aeroplan.
So codeshare, you can earn the points and you can redeem it. Okay.
Sure. Wow.
That still is way higher than I would have thought. And now I feel woefully under-equipped for this episode today, to say the least.
Yeah, no kidding. We are definitely the worst points podcast in Canada if we're off by that many partners.
Hey, I was only 20 under.
All right, Reed, hit us with the next question.
Okay. So the next two questions are sort of going off the last episode. Guess that partner. So which Aeroplan partner is known for having a 7th Freedom flight? And as an example, they fly a route from Frankfurt to Kalmar, which is in Sweden, by the way.
Ooh.
I can give more hints if it's too obscure.
Yes.
If it was coming, if you were coming north to south, then Swiss does the 5th Freedom and Air Canada both do it from Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires. But I don't know.
I don't think either of those
So-
cities are in Sweden.
It's
Not with that attitude. We got to bring back the Swedish Stormusket.
Reed, did you say 5th Freedom or 7th Freedom?
so there's a blog that calls it a 7th Freedom because it's a flight basically outside of the like base country,
Okay.
and it doesn't like connect even back to the like home
Wow.
base country.
I'm gonna guess Turkish. That's what I'm gonna guess.
No, way more obscure than Turkish.
Oman?
It's an Italian airline, but it's owned by Lufthansa Group.
Air Meaty.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have had zero idea on that one.
Okay, I think the next one Danny's going to get to, but which partner has an eagle in its logo? Or a falcon?
Gulf Air.
Its logo. Gulf Air, yeah.
Damn.
I know, Danny, you flew Gulf Air. How was that?
The Gulf Air check-in process was a little rough. I mean, we didn't make it easy on them because we had 4 different segments in that ticket, and we had changed it like 3 or 4 times. And we were originating in Frankfurt for our Gulf Air flight. So, truth be told, there was a whole bunch of Frankfurt airport employees and like one representative from Gulf Air. So, that one representative was tied up with a whole bunch of other issues. So it was fine, but definitely would love to try their wide body aircraft. We flew on their narrow body lie flat business, which was good. And there's a review of it on the site. But with so many different options to get from Europe to the Maldives, I would probably choose a different carrier next time.
Yep. So another pretty obscure one. Which partner regional airline is based in Manitoba?
Calm Air.
Yep.
Like, what is this guy doing? Like, I have no idea, man. You might as well be like asking me some high level physics questions at this point. Like,
Well, I mean,
idea.
with the Manitoba connection, I think that one kind of helped me out there. And then I flew on the Gulf Air program, and I've searched lots of availability to get to Milan in the wintertime. So Air Dolomiti pops up there. So I don't know. I feel like Reed targeted these questions specifically at me.
I don't know.
It works. It works.
Yeah, so that was it for trivia. I also had just kind of I thought it'd be a good question for us to just talk about if any of us have favorite Aeroplan flight that we've flown or partner flight that we've flown. For me recently, I flew on Singapore Airlines business class from Istanbul to Singapore, which was an awesome experience. The food was amazing. And it was a really modern seat, modern hard product as well. So Danny, do you have anything that stands out to you?
Oof, I've done a lot of fun stuff with Aeroplan. I would have to say my most creative redemption was a 6-segment itinerary that took me from Seattle to New York City with a priority reward. And it was, like I said, about 6 segments long over like 3 or 4 days with 2 or 3 stopovers. And I managed to get the whole thing to ticket, which was really fun. So using that priority reward saved me like 70,000 points. So that was pretty cool. Kirin, have you done anything interesting with Aeroplan?
Nah, I'm so agnostic on this. I just want to go to where I'm going. I just sleep on the damn plane.
That's a fair
What
approach.
about that premium economy flight you had, Kieran?
Oh, I mean, I will shell for premium economy on Air Canada any day of the week that you want me to. I will say this, though. It's, again, I just really wanted to get to that destination, so that's why it was good enough. And in that case, it was Japan. Okay, I'll say this. I haven't flown it. Some of my family members have. The Vancouver to Taipei direct flight on EVA Air, I have heard absolutely nothing but amazing reviews of, and I've, known some people in the community who have leapt on that because the availability for it has certainly gone down in recent years, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about that particular one.
And is that in business or economy, Kirin?
The business class product, I've also heard good things for people who've paid cash on the economy product.
Oh, cool.
So that kind of stole my answer. Yeah, last year I had the chance to fly that exact route. It was Vancouver to Taipei through to Bangkok on EVA Air. Echoing what Kirin just said, his family members' experience were very similar to mine. Excellent service, really good hard and soft product. Food was phenomenal and a really comfortable way to get to that part of the world. So unfortunately, we're not seeing as much availability for EVA Air business class through Aeroplan at the moment, but hopefully it comes back at some point.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we all get a ton of value out of this program. Those of us that fly it more frequently or tend to fly it a lot throughout the year. Josh, did you want to take a crack at giving an overview of Air Canada Aeroplan for those that are just hearing about it now for the first time?
Yeah, so Air Canada Aeroplan is probably what we'd consider the premier frequent flyer program for Canadians. They have so many partners, as Reed mentioned earlier, and they're arguably the most prominent currency to earn in Canada when it comes to frequent flyer programs. I'm sure probably everybody who's listening to this show right now, including those who are on it, we've all flown on Air Canada at some point. And it's just such a cornerstone within air travel within Canada that it's really a hard program to ignore. So while Aeroplan is the loyalty program of Air Canada, it's really so much more than that. It's all encompassing. And while you can earn points flying on Air Canada and redeem points for Air Canada flights, as we'll touch on later within this episode, Air Canada Aeroplan has all of these partners that Reed mentioned. And as a result of that, you can actually earn Aeroplan points on non-Air Canada flights, as well as redeem Aeroplan points on non-Air Canada flights. So while you might be thinking kind of small picture, which is, flights within Canada and North America on Air Canada, there's really a much bigger picture here with the Aeroplan loyalty program. And that's where we really benefit as miles and points enthusiasts who want to travel the world. So for those who participate in the Air Canada Aeroplan loyalty program, there's definitely no shortage of ways to earn Aeroplan points in Canada. Kirin, why don't you tell us about a few ways that you like to earn your Aeroplan points?
Okay, yeah. So just to kick off, I want to get something clear for the ground rules when we talk about Air Canada Aeroplan. Like you said, Aeroplan is the loyalty program of Air Canada, and it can be used on Air Canada flights, but that's not the exclusive way to use it. Similarly, it's not the exclusive way to earn it. So there's a variety of ways that you can use other points currencies, what I like to call convertible points currencies, and you can translate those points into Air Canada Aeroplan points, and then you can use them on a variety of different uses within the program. So there's a couple ways that I like to earn this. Now, my favorite one as a Canadian is transferring from American Express membership rewards. Now, it's kind of confusing when you think about how one of them is membership rewards and it belongs to American Express, and the other one is Aeroplan and it belongs to Air Canada. But really, all that happens is I get a credit card, I make the minimum spend on it, I'm awarded a sum of points, and then I'm able to turn that sum of points at 1-to-1 into Aeroplan points. And then I can use it for whatever I want. So that's probably my favorite way to do it. In the Canadian context, it's one of the most efficient ways to do it, but it's not the exclusive way to do it. There's other ways to do it as well. For example, there are co-branded Aeroplan credit cards, not just from American Express, though, there are American Express cards that instead of earning membership rewards, only earn Aeroplan. There's also co-branded cards from CIBC and TD, and both of those products are Visa products, which can be helpful because, which one of us has not cried about the woeful state sometimes of American Express acceptance around the country. Along with that, there's a couple other ways that we can do it. So there's the ability to earn it on flights. Now, it's a bit of a Byzantine arcane system to figure out how many points you're earning on flights. I'm going to summarize it in the most condensed fashion that I possibly can, which is that if you're flying economy, you ain't earning a lot of Aeroplan. If you're flying premium economy or business, you're earning bonus Aeroplan. And if you're flying refundable/expensive economy, then you're earning a bunch of Aeroplan. On top of this, you can also use the Aeroplan e-store. So that's a way that rewards you for shopping online when you buy goods. Some of my particular favorites, or the favorites of people close to me, are stores like Apple, Lululemon. They're not the cheapest, but they consistently have promotional rates, 7x the points, 10x the points per dollar spent. You have a $500, $1,000, $2,000 purchase, for example, for a laptop. That adds up to a lot of Aeroplans. That's a really useful way to accelerate earning on items that you would have purchased regardless. Now, if we're going to go down the laundry list, there's a whole pile of other mechanisms that we can go by, other co-branded partnerships. And, Danny, I think that you're a fan of Starbucks. You want to take that away?
Yeah, so with the Aeroplan and Starbucks partnership, I believe you get something like 75 points when you refill your Starbucks card with $100. So you're not going to be redeeming for Lufthansa First Class anytime soon with that partnership, but it is the best way to get the most return from your Starbucks purchase. If you're a regular Starbucks connoisseur, then you'd want to be paying with the Starbucks gift card. And if you load your Starbucks gift card, I think through the Starbucks portal, then you would get 75 Aeroplan points for doing so. We've also got something specifically for the residents of Ontario. So at the Liquor Commission Board of Ontario, or the LCBO for short, you are going to get some base earn rates, 1 point for every $4 of spending. Not a fantastic return at all, but there's often a lot of products that do go on special. So for example, you can get sometimes a $50 bottle of liquor that has a 500 point bonus. So essentially, you're getting like 10 points per dollar if you buy that one specific type of alcohol. That could be a nice way to earn a little bit of extra points with your everyday spending. But as Kirin mentioned, really the best way to earn Aeroplan points in Canada is taking advantage of the financial institutions and their offers from TD, CIBC, and Amex. And then when it comes into actually earning from spending, I'll hand it over to Josh and he can talk about actually the best earning. It's kind of funny because it's not really an Aeroplan branded card, but this American Express card that I'm thinking of earns the most points per dollar that can be converted into Aeroplan points.
It's got to be the American Express Cobalt card. This card is mentioned many times within the show in the previous episodes. We all love it. We all hold it. It's a little weird, like Danny said, where the fact that you can earn the most Aeroplan by a card that isn't even a co-branded Aeroplan credit card. But the reality is, when you're thinking about American Express membership rewards in Canada, your mind should almost go to Aeroplan, as that's typically the best redemption and typically the best option to transfer them to. They transfer at a ratio of 1-to-1. Transfers are usually instant, and it's a fantastic way to accrue considering using that Cobalt card, grocery, restaurants, dining, all that good stuff is 5 times, which just massively scales your earn rate just on day-to-day purchases. So American Express membership rewards, an absolute stellar way to accrue Aeroplan en masse. But there's also those co-branded cards that Kirin and Danny mentioned from CIBC, TD, and American Express that while they may not earn as much as the Cobalt card, there still is a ton of value that can be derived from them, not only through welcome bonuses, but also through some of the perks they offer. I know Danny's flown a few times with a lot of checked bags as he's moved around the world and whatnot. So do you want to share the value that those co-branded cards can bring to cardholders?
Yeah, so in order to get meaningful perks from your co-branded card, you need to have at least one of the core level cards. And essentially the easy way to differentiate a basic level card from a core level card is going to be the annual fee. So the cards that I'm thinking of off the top of my head to get specific are the CIBC Aeroplan Visa Infinite, the TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite, and the American Express Aeroplan card. So each of those are, I think, $120 to $150 a year. And some things that are most powerful with that card is that you're going to get a free check bag for the card holder and up to 8 additional passengers on the same booking. So it doesn't matter if those passengers are related to you or not. If they are on the same booking, meaning that you booked them all at the exact same time in one transaction, you don't even have to pay for that particular flight with your Aeroplan card. As long as the card holder is also on that ticket, then everybody gets a free check bag. So immediately, even if you don't have a first year free offer or you're paying for the card year over year, if you have a big family or if you travel for work, let's say with some other work colleagues and everybody's checking a bag, that can be an excellent way to get value out of the Aeroplan co-branded cards.
I think there's just a caveat that you have to be aware of. Yes, you can use that for flights that you've redeemed Aeroplan points on, but only if they're tendered by Air Canada. The moment you get onto a plane that's a partner airline is the moment that they tell you to start paying for your bag. So just be aware of that. And of course, this is confusing, I think, to a layperson sometimes. You have these points and then you use these points on the Air Canada airline, but you can use that to fly on another airline. So, just something to keep in mind with this system is that think of Aeroplan as a currency, and it's a currency that can be redeemed for a variety of different products or services. And sometimes those products and services will be provided by Air Canada, sometimes they will not.
Right. So I guess to summarize that in an easy to understand format is if your flight is operated by Air Canada and you hold a core Aeroplan card, you'll be able to get bags for yourself and 9 passengers for free.
Does anyone hold any of the Visa Infinite privilege, or on the American Express side, the reserve cards? Because they have some different benefits as well.
I have an American Express reserve card, and I can talk all about the benefits. So I have been using that for $599 per year for the past couple of years. And now, is that worth it? Value can be hard to quantify sometimes. So there's a couple benefits that come from this card. So The first one is that when I'm flying within North America, I automatically get lounge access on any flights tendered by Air Canada. So, no, it doesn't work with WestJet. Yes, I tried. No, they told me to leave. It was very funny. I took out my Platinum card, walked to the other airport lounge that we have in Edmonton International. We don't have very many lounges. They're not very big or very nice. But it was funny. So the second reason that I like it is that it allows me to roll over my Air Canada e-upgrades each year, which are something that we could go into a deep rabbit hole about, but needless to say, they're just something that's useful for upgrading points flights. You can occasionally use them for cash flights as well. I use them for points flights. I like to be able to roll it over, so that's where I get most of my value. And then the last item is that the Air Canada Aeroplan Reserve card grants me status qualifying miles at a rate of 1,000 miles per $5,000 Canadian that I spend. Now, is that enough to boost my status? No, not really. Has it been enough to boost or help me with my status in past years? Yes, but not this year and probably not going forward anytime soon. So, will I keep the card? It really depends. It has a decent earn rate. It has very, very strong insurance. And because it's co-branded, when I book flights on Air Canada or partner flights using Aeroplan points, it covers me with insurance. So one of the other benefits of all of the co-branded cards, whether it's an American Express card, a TD card, a CIBC card, is that if you book cards via Aeroplan points and you pay the taxes and fees with your co-branded card, then all of the insurance from that credit card, all of that stuff in that big old document that if you're like me, you just immediately throw into the garbage. Well, that all applies to your flight now. So the delayed baggage, it applies. The out of province / out of country medical insurance, it applies. So just keep that in mind. And those can be reasons to keep credit cards along, because you don't always want to be buying the Deloitte or Manulife or whatever insurance that's sold to you at checkout for all your flights.
So obviously, credit cards are the way forward to earn the most. And I know Kirin talked about the Aeroplan e-store, and Danny shared a little bit about Starbucks as well as the LCBO for those who either live in those areas where those retailers service or are just very passionate coffee drinkers. There are a few other programs that you can earn a little bit of Aeroplan in. It's definitely not gonna, be a game-changing earn rate typically. So for those who participate in fuel rewards, we have Journey Rewards, which earns 1 Aeroplan point per 3 liters spent, which works out to be, or 3 liters purchased, works out to be about a 0.4% rebate on that. If not linked, and if you do link your account to your Aeroplan, they earn 1 point per 1 liter purchased, which is a much stronger 1.25% rebate. Aeroplan also partners with Uber and Uber Eats, so whether you like being driven around or having food delivered to you, there's definitely an opportunity to earn a few points here and there on your purchases. It's really not that impactful. You definitely want to link your Uber Eats or Uber account to your Aeroplan account to benefit, but you have to spend more than $40 to receive any rewards on that. There is also a rental car portal that you can take advantage of that earns 4 Aeroplan points per dollar if you have elite status. Of course, it doesn't make sense to always just default go through a portal. You always want to make sure that you're getting the best price, so you can look at other sites and portals such as AutoSlash to make sure that, while you may not earn Aeroplan points on your car rental, if you can spend, $150 less, of course, it's worth going down that route.
I just wanted to jump in and hammer home one more thing about the Aeroplan e-store, because I think of these secondary methods, the Aeroplan e-store is probably the most valuable. The e-store has like hundreds and hundreds of retailers in Canada. And if you're making a large purchase, if you're buying a new laptop from Lenovo or a new vacuum from Dyson, and you can time that purchase with certain times of year where the Aeroplan e-store tends to have very large earning rates, you can earn tons of Aeroplans. So if you're buying a new laptop for $3,000 and you buy it at the right time, you can get 10 times Aeroplan on that purchase. So essentially 30,000 Aeroplan for a purchase you're already making. So I find the Aeroplan e-store is something that everyone should be aware of and making use of.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder, Reed. And just to jump in for another data point to give an example of how powerful it can be, I can't remember what I bought, whether it was a new laptop or a new iPhone, but there was a promotion that happened in 2022 where it was 10 points per dollar by using an Aeroplan Reserve credit card and 10 points per dollar by clicking through the portal. So I earned 20 points per dollar, and it actually got me 25K status that year that I wouldn't have earned otherwise, because it was like 40,000 points that I earned from one purchase. So that e-store can be really powerful and definitely worth doing a deep dive on.
Absolutely. We do have a guide to the e-store. We'll include it in the show notes for the episode. So Reed, I know we all have US credit cards, but Reed is kind of the go-to US credit card guy. So Reed, what is your preferred way to earn Air Canada Aeroplan when it comes to US credit cards?
Yeah, US cards have always been, the market is a lot more expansive. There's more competition. The offers tend to be higher on US credit cards, but I think that's more true now than ever. Frankly, a lot of the card offers in Canada right now are at all-time lows. There's still value to be had, but if you can get into US credit cards, the offers absolutely dwarf the raw numbers you can earn from one sign up there can be in excess of 200,000 points. So we're definitely going to have a dedicated episode where we talk all about US credit cards for Canadians, but just to touch on for those who have already kind of started to get into that, you want to be thinking about American Express US. Lots of offers there are incredible. Business Platinum American Express card, you can earn up to 250,000 membership rewards. Chase Ultimate Rewards, for those who've gotten a little deeper into the US card game, you can get those as well. Those offers, whether on the personal cards or the business cards, are in excess of 100,000 Ultimate Rewards. Another card that is especially relevant on the US side of things is the Chase Aeroplan card. Does anyone hold that card on the episode?
No, I don't hold that card.
Hell yeah, I hold that card.
Did you want to talk a little bit about that card? Kirin?
Absolutely, yeah. So the Chase Aeroplan card, $95 American a year, 95 freedom dollars. And in exchange for that, you will get 3x the Aeroplan points per one freedom dollar spent upon food, drink, and I believe grocery stores, but only within the United States. So it's only going to be working on restaurants in Canada. And then it's 1x on everything else. Now, you might be wondering, why would I be so jiffy for this particular piece of plastic? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, if you spend $15,000 American in a year, you automatically get status. You get 25K status. Now, if you spend $50,000 American in a year, you actually get whatever status you're holding with Air Canada upgraded. So if you're 75K, boom, instant super elite. I have heard, this is partially real, partially rumor, that if you can somehow cycle $1 million through this card in a year, then you will automatically get Aeroplan Super Elite status. Is that true? Apparently it was at one point in time. Is it true now? Well, I don't know. I'm not putting $1 million through this MasterCard. But for those of you in American buying groups, this is absolutely incredible. Or if you're just a very organically high spending household, or for example, live in the United States, we have plenty of Canadians, I hope, who are living, working in the United States. This could be a fantastic one card solution, especially if you're living in, say, a high rent city like San Francisco, where plenty of the buildings be taking that plastic. So you can use that to basically hit those thresholds and get your status bumped up. It offers truly unique value that a lot of other cards don't, and the annual fee is so low that I think it's worth the cost of doing business.
Yeah, it's definitely an easy one to just keep in your wallet at that price point. You can't beat 95 USD per year. There's also opportunity to transfer Marriott Bonvoy points to Aeroplan at a ratio of 3-1. Or if you transfer 60,000 Marriott Bonvoy, you get 25,000 Aeroplan. Typically, it's an option for sure that I think is worth mentioning and exploring if you have excess Marriott Bonvoy points, but usually pretty poor value compared to what you could get out of your Marriott Bonvoy points. So we wouldn't ever recommend going down this avenue as an actual, earning method worth considering. So we will throw the US credit card guide in the show notes just to make it really clear. You definitely are eligible to get US credit cards as a Canadian. I know that sounds a little weird, but everyone on this episode does have US credit cards. It is a perfectly valid approach with a little bit of work required. So we'll include that. So if you want to learn a bit more and see if going down that road is right for you in your miles and points and Aeroplan journey, definitely take a read. And if you have any questions, leave us a comment on the episode. So whether we've earned in Canadian on Canadian credit cards or other programs we've earned on U.S. credit cards at this point, we now have a stack of Aeroplan points, and we're wondering how can we best redeem these and what can they be redeemed for. So Danny, why don't you take it away and, give us your thoughts or initial thoughts on redeeming Aeroplan points.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So how to redeem Aeroplan points? That is a very deep and very hard question to answer, but the easiest answer that I can give is not to redeem your points and miles for merchandise, gift cards, or hotels, unless you have an absolute abundant amount of Aeroplan points, which at this point, you probably shouldn't be listening to the podcast if you've reached 800,000 Aeroplan points in your account. But if you're a normal consumer that is rationing Aeroplan points, you want to stay away from any merchandise, gift cards, or hotels. Now, the biggest piece of Aeroplan that is frustrating for the majority of consumers is that Aeroplan operates on a dynamically priced redemption schedule. So what does that mean? Basically, dynamic pricing operates in the fashion that as the cash cost of a flight increases, the amount of points that it will take to book that flight also increases. Now, to make things even more complex, this doesn't apply to every single flight that is available to be booked with Air Canada Aeroplan. Only flights that include an Air Canada operated segment are dynamically priced. Well, I have to back up and correct myself. Also Emirates flights, but we'll get into that a little bit later. When you're talking about redeeming Aeroplan points, you've got partner redemptions and you've got Air Canada redemptions. And typically, those partner redemptions are much harder to find, but provide a lot more value because no matter what, if the flight costs $1,000 or $5,000, it's going to be the same amount of points. So to talk about how to find those hard to find partner flights, I'm going to toss it over to Reed, and he can talk about some of the search tools that we like to use and some of the articles that we have on the website into how they work.
Yeah, at the most basic level, when you're going to go book an Aeroplan flight or an Air Canada flight, you're going to go to the Aeroplan website and you're going to use their search engine, click on book with Aeroplan points. But as we find with a lot of airline search engines, they're quite lacking. So if you do that on Aeroplan's website, you're going to be forced to search one day at a time, and the results are going to skew towards dynamically priced Air Canada flights. And so that's the reason why there's all these flight aggregators or search tools that are external to the airlines and essentially aggregate flights that can be booked on points from many different airlines and many different programs, including Aeroplan. So we've written 2 articles, one about a specific tool we really like called seats.aero, and also one that sort of summarizes and compares 5 different tools. So all of us use these tools. They're really, really useful. I would definitely recommend anyone looking to make their first booking, go and play around with some of these tools. Some of them are better if you're, for example, Points is a little bit better if you're not looking to pay a membership fee or a subscription fee. The free features are a little bit more comprehensive, but I would definitely recommend for the monthly subscription fee of around $10, Seats.aero is well worth it. And you also get access to a partner tool I have called Rooms.aero, which is the same concept, but for hotels.
Yeah, I just have to echo, in my eyes, one of the biggest mistakes people make with Aeroplan is they simply go on the Aeroplan app or the website, they slap their dates in, their route, and they search and they see that the flight is dynamic to the hundreds of thousands of points, and they get frustrated and say that Air Canada Aeroplan is worthless. That's such a blanket statement. It might be worthless on the day that you're trying to fly, but it's definitely not. I kind of have the same approaches as Reed. I tend to just boot up seats.aero, take a look, and start really looking at chunks of flights within 60 days, 180 days, and really start to narrow things down as opposed to just going straight through the app. I think going through the app or the website is probably the first mistake and the most common mistake a lot of new Aeroplan users and new miles and points users make.
Yeah, I think even just for the ability to mass filter that huge list of flights that fit your criteria, you can filter by things like the cabin you're looking for, if you're looking for something really specific, or business class, if you're looking for a specific airline. Or you can also expand the search. So instead of just searching for individual cities, which is what you have to do with the Air Canada or Aeroplan search engine, you can actually search regions. So if you're willing to fly from any airport in Canada or any airport on the east coast of the U.S., like you can add that in as the departure criteria. So
if I can speak about dynamic pricing for a second, I'd like to just point out something, which is that I understand that oftentimes when we talk about both our airline partners and about our flights that we take, we often want to take those aspirational flights. Don't get me wrong, like I'm a spoiled Sally. I absolutely love flying in business class. And am I going to go out of my way to do stuff like look for a flight on Turkish Airlines from Montreal or from Toronto, or a flight on Lufthansa from Vancouver, so that I can get with connections from Edmonton? Absolutely. I'm going to do that all the time. But because I'm doing that, that's often going to give me at least one leg on Air Canada. So it's going to be partially dynamic. I might have sort of a minimum price of, say, 70,000 or 75,000 or 87,500 points, plus like maybe a bit more on top of that. But the second thing is that I want to allow some of the people listening to the show to think about a couple alternative options that can present themselves. So one, and this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but it can totally be worth it to use fixed point redemptions on partners to fly economy. Would I want to do it? Do I want to fly 12 hours to Taipei in economy? Not really. But if it costs 45,000 points straight from Vancouver and that cash ticket is normally $1,500, $2,000 round trip, well, that actually starts becoming not a terrible usage of my points. It not perhaps as efficient on the cents per point as flying in business, but if they're not releasing business unless it's a year in advance, then why would I do it? The second thing is that dynamic pricing, yes, 80% of the time it cuts against you. It's going to cause a price to go into the stratosphere. But remember, the algorithms that Air Canada uses are very powerful. They do calculate for what they assume to be the organic cash demand, which is to say, how many people do they think are going to pay to be at the front of the plane in business or in premium economy? And then it's going to adjust. This can help you win in two cases. One, occasionally you will find a route, including in business class, where the dynamic price will not be crazy. Sometimes it can even be low. For example, I've seen flights on, I believe it was Air New Zealand, and it was coming back to Canada and finishing in Edmonton, and that was 70,000 points in business class. That was just how the algorithm spat it out. So, not a bad usage of points. Sometimes you'll win there for those business class flights. But the second place that you'll often find yourself winning big time is in premium economy. And I know that I've spoken about this before because I've taken it to Japan. I've taken it to, I'm considering taking it to South America, and I've definitely booked it there and then upgraded it. It can be a very good value to Europe. But premium economy is a place where, especially if your point of origin is in a secondary city, I'm thinking all my lovely people out there in Winnipeg. I'm thinking people out there in Ottawa, right? If you start there, you maybe have a layover in Toronto and then you go on to Zurich or wherever, you might win on the premium economy. You might see business class being 150,000, 200,000 points, economy being 30, 40, 50,000 points. You might see premium economy there, 60,000, 70,000 points. And it's a comfortable ride. It's just Air Canada. It's like, you're not going to be getting cordon bleu meals, but hey, you're going to be able to sleep. It's going to be comfortable, and you're going to be getting on and off the plane first. So that is a place that some excellent value can be found in the minefield, or the proverbial minefield that is dynamic pricing.
Yeah, that's a really good point as far as considering economy or premium economy. I think it also rings really true right now if you're someone who's just getting into this, or if your only earn method is Canadian credit cards. Earning in excess of 50 or 100,000 Aeroplan isn't that easy these days. So you can either consider flying those other cabins, or look to really maximizing the specific flights. Danny, on that note, do you have any other favorite sweet spots that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so in terms of sweet spots with the partner airlines, kind of shifting away a little bit from redeeming with Air Canada and dynamic pricing, I think the search tools will do a good job of showing you those fixed redemption prices when you're new. But some of the things that we really like to look for as folks that have been in the redemption game for quite some time now is like Lufthansa and Swiss having a lot of availability from North America to Europe. So you'll pay anywhere from 60,000 to 70,000 points to fly from North America to a hub either in Switzerland or in Germany. So that's a really nice way to cross the Atlantic with a lie flat seat. It's not going to be the nicest product that exists out there, and it's not necessarily the lowest price, but for somebody who's just getting started in credit card rewards and redeeming your points for more than a statement credit, that's a really nice sweet spot to look for. And then also the fact that you've got a 5,000 point stopover option where you can carry on to endless destinations with Aeroplan's 50 some different partners. If you pay 75,000 points and then carry on to another destination within Europe after spending some time in Munich for Oktoberfest, for example, that second flight basically becomes a 5,000 point add-on, and it can even be as much as 2 weeks later. So you kind of get two destinations with the cost of one flight, which is a really nice thing that Aeroplan offers that not a lot of other programs will offer. But Josh, how about getting to Asia? Is there anything that Aeroplan's really good at there?
Asia with Aeroplan right now is kind of in a weird spot. So typically, we would mention Vancouver or Seattle to Tokyo on ANA, but very, very difficult to find availability. Even calling in is spotty right now to book it, so it's not something we'd really recommend going down the path to find. However, there is really a good opportunity to fly from LA or San Francisco to Asia. There's usually some great last minute availability on United Airlines or Lufthansa. So take a look. Obviously, you may have to position yourself using a positioning flight, whether that's using your Aeroplan points or another currency. And we do have a good article on Frugal Flyer about positioning flights, so we'll include that in the show notes. But getting yourself to one of those hubs is probably the best play if you're looking to use your Aeroplan points to cross the Pacific and onwards. So kind of a good way to sum up Air Canada Aeroplan redemptions or the sentiment within the Frugal Flyer team is that oftentimes Aeroplan may not be the best deal in terms of lowest cost of points. There's many other sweet spots in many other programs, whether it's Life Miles, ANA Mileage Club, and many, many other Star Alliance programs. But it's important to remember this is a great program for Canadians to get started in. It's super accessible, pretty straightforward to earn points in. And so while it may not be that best deal, it's usually most accessible and most achievable for those Canadians who really want to get started with miles and points. And for that alone, it really is a standout program.
If I may pontificate, I think it's also important to remember that if you transfer points to Aeroplan, it's pretty rare that you're going to regret it for the rest of your life, because if you put points into, say, ANA, All Nippon Airways, which is a Japanese carrier, yes, that can be cool for finding that one business class flight that one time if there's availability. But if you really need to visit your grandma at Christmas, as some of our, I'm sure, fans from Flyer Talk would phrase it, then, well, it's not going to be much use unless your grandma lives in Japan. If she lives in Regina, you probably need to use Aeroplan.
Yeah, I agree. I never have any issues or concerns transferring excess points into Aeroplan because while they may sit for a bit, I know damn well they're always going to get used. And that's definitely not the case for many other frequent flyer programs. So there is one more element to the Air Canada Aeroplan program, and we all have various experiences and knowledge with it. But as with any other frequent flyer program, Air Canada Aeroplan also offers elite status to its members that can be earned through many, many different avenues and some very unique avenues that one of our writers has taken advantage of. So Danny, why don't you take it away with your experience with Air Canada Aeroplan status and the value that it can bring individuals?
All right. So all about Aeroplan status. I probably fly the most cash fares out of our team organically just with my career in consulting. And because of that, I achieve Aeroplan 50K status most years. So to achieve Aeroplan status, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. Naturally flying is how I've done it for the majority of the past few years, and that involved collecting status qualifying miles or status qualifying segments, along with a whole bunch of status qualifying dollars. Now, I'm not going to spend the time to explain all of those on the show, but if you want to know more about each individual things about that, I've got an ultimate guide to Aeroplan status that explains everything in a lot more detail. But why Aeroplan status is so rewarding is because they've got a lot of bonuses along the way that can make massive impacts to your redemption schedule. So the one thing that I've found to be most powerful is the Aeroplan Priority Rewards. And essentially what a priority reward is, it's a 50% discount coupon on any Aeroplan reward that fits into your status level. So again, not going to get into the specifics of it, but as you go through the status levels, these become more powerful. So as an example, with me and my 50K status, I get the ability to use priority rewards for an economy or premium economy ticket anywhere in North America or to sun destinations. So I used all 4 priority rewards that I used last year, that I earned last year to fly my wife, myself, and my in-laws down to Mexico on a round trip ticket for 80,000 Aeroplan points. That's 4 people round trip Toronto to Tulum, 80,000 points. Normally, that would cost 160,000 points, but because of priority rewards, I saved 80,000 points. So that alone is worth about $1,600 if you wanted to just buy those 80,000 points outright. So super valuable there. You can also attain status with the Everyday Qualification program. So Everyday Qualification, or EDQ for short, is collecting 100,000 Aeroplan points through eligible sources. Now, those eligible sources will be things like flying, credit card spending, also partnership spending, so LCBO and Uber and all that stuff. You have to accumulate 100,000 Aeroplan points. That seems like a lot, but I actually wrote another article about this, and we'll include that in the show notes where I break down exactly how a family of 4 can reasonably attain 25K status, get those e-upgrades, and have the option to earn priority rewards. And then, of course, Kirin already talked about the fact that if you get the Chase Aeroplan card, which takes a lot of legwork, but it's worth it, you get instant 25K status for the first 2 years. And if you continue to spend $15,000 a year on that credit card, you're going to earn Aeroplan 25K status every single year. Now, we talked a little bit about the SQM bonuses on the co-branded credit cards, but maybe Kirin, do you want to touch on that again here while we're just in the status segment?
Yeah, so the status qualifying mile bonuses, the SQM bonuses that come on the premium credit cards, are designed to reward, for lack of a better, whales. So for every $5,000 that you spend either on the CIBC or TD Visa Infinite privilege cards that are co-branded with Aeroplan or with the Amex Aeroplan Reserve card, and yes, you do get a bunch of Aeroplan if you can say that 10 times fast and backwards. Anyways, you will be getting 1,000 SQM for every $5,000 Canadian that you spend. Now, that's a huge amount of spend for what might be a small amount of mileage, but as you will know if you are either somebody who flies a lot for work or knows somebody who flies a lot for work. I have a great friend who's a gentleman who works for a government department that travels a lot. The barrier for status for them often isn't things like the status qualifying dollars. It's often things like the segments or the mileage. So if they spend enough per year, they might get that extra 3, 4, 5,000 status qualifying miles that might push them to the next year, 50K or 75K oftentimes. So that's where the advantage comes from. If you're not somebody who's going to be using that amount to spend through your work or through your business, or who isn't traveling enough to really avail of that benefit, then that might not be the card for you. But it's something to be aware of.
Yep. Thanks, Kirin. And then I guess the only thing lastly that I want to mention about Aeroplan status is the e-upgrades that we've touched on a little bit here and there. But e-upgrades can be a super powerful way to fight the dynamic pricing that we talked about earlier in the redemption phase. So if you buy an expensive enough fare with Aeroplan points or with cash, but often the value is better with Aeroplan points, you can use your e-upgrades to instantly clear into a business class cabin. So what that means is rather than having to pay 200,000 points for a Aeroplan business class redemption, you can instead pay 80,000 points, use 12 e-upgrades, and you're in the same business class seat, but you've used those e-upgrades to effectively save 120,000 points. So if you've collected a lot of Aeroplan points and you're looking for better ways to fly on Air Canada, those e-upgrades are an excellent perk of status. And as we've mentioned, there's a few different creative ways that you can achieve Aeroplan status that maybe you don't know or Aeroplan doesn't advertise to the general public super loudly.
I will say we do have a ton of Air Canada Aeroplan articles on frugalflyer.ca, many written by Daniel, as he's lived the experience in working within the program and using it regularly. So we will include a bunch of those in the show notes, but if you're ever looking for more information on Aeroplan, you can simply Google Frugal Flyer Aeroplan or visit frugalflyer.ca and search for Aeroplan in our search bar, and we have a wealth of knowledge there. So working towards wrapping up the episode here, I know we have a few questions related to Air Canada and Aeroplan. Reed, why don't you share them with us?
Yep. So we had a question here from Dana. Dana asks, if I wanted to use my Aeroplan points to book a flight on Lufthansa or any other Star Alliance airline, can I do that directly through the Partner Airlines portal, or do I need to book the flight through Air Canada?
So anytime you're booking a partner airline award using Aeroplan points, you are going to always book directly with Air Canada Aeroplan, whether it's on the Aeroplan website or on the app. You can absolutely search for availability elsewhere, and sometimes that's the better opportunity, whether other partners have better search tools or using Seats Aero, but you will ultimately end up searching for that flight and making the booking directly through Air Canada Aeroplan. It is important to note that while you do book partner awards, like Lufthansa through Air Canada Aeroplan, when you want to use your Aeroplan points, if you're interested in kind of the other things that you can do with your booking, such as seat selection or perhaps selecting your onboard dining in advance, if that's offered by the airline you're flying with, typically you'll need to actually go to that carrier's website. So you would go to Lufthansa and you would manage your booking through the Lufthansa website to do your seat selection. There are a few oddities out there, such as if you're trying to select seats with Turkish, you might have to use the app or do it at check-in at the airport. If you're ever unsure as to how you can do that on an Aeroplan booking, depending on the carrier, Flyer Talk is also an excellent resource to help you ensure that you're able to select your seats or meals or anything else you need to do in advance of your flight.
Yep. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've had to actually check in using partner airlines apps or websites before as well. Sometimes I think you can do it with Aeroplan, depending on the partner, but the two IT systems don't always mesh quite effectively.
Yeah, I think it is partner dependent for sure.
Yeah, but I think that's a good rule, Reed. Most of the time, if you're redeeming points with an airline partner, you'll check in with that partner's website, but you book the flight with the points currency that is home to that airline.
Yep, absolutely. So I had actually a question of my own. What in the world is Aeroplan family sharing, and is it dead?
Are you telling me you don't have a family, Reed?
I have
one that he wants to share with
friends and family, friends and family sharing.
All right, Aeroplan family sharing. I use it quite a bit. Luckily, I was able to set up my family sharing pool at the end of 2021, so I haven't had any issues with it, but I currently can't add any new family members. And if you haven't set up your family sharing account, you can't actually create one right now, which is a major bummer.
Yeah, and that's been for about a year, if not almost a year at this point. We talked about, there's other programs that allow family sharing, but as Aeroplan works to, combat fraud and miles and points brokers using their service, they've said that's why they've turned it off, but there's really still no indication of when it comes back, which is a shame because I never set it up for myself, so I'm missing out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful they'll bring that back. I did check the website before the episode and it still says the same notice about temporarily being paused.
And for anybody who's not familiar with what family sharing is, essentially what it allows you to do is you can have multiple people earn points within one household, and then all of those points can go together all in one account and be redeemed. So, for example, if your wife doesn't spend all that much money on their credit card, and then you have a business account that has hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend, rather than her needing to log into your account and book a flight, she can just log into her account and then use those Aeroplan points that you've authorized them to use. So it's a really nice way to combine points and be able to, let's say, get a welcome bonus from one member of the family and a welcome bonus from another member of the family, put them together and book a business class award rather than having to book all the flights from one particular account or have two separate bookings.
Thanks to all our listeners for tuning into Miles Ahead. Hopefully you're all experts now in Air Canada Aeroplan. Please leave us all your questions about Aeroplan and anything else in the episode comments section. And until next episode, happy frugal flying.